I'm going to go ahead and go through some slides so that today we can talk about how to research your competition for fun and profit. Because that's what we're in business for, right? We want to have fun and we want to make a profit. If you can do those two things, you're in good shape. So I don't know if you're a full screen webinar kind of person. Lots of people, my competitors, recommend to their audiences that you should go full screen, shut down all the other windows, and pay full attention. I don't like to do that when I'm watching a webinar. So I'm going to ignore what my competitors do. This is something I'm going to teach you how to do later. Because it doesn't work for me. I'm going to acknowledge that my competition says, shut down everything, go full screen, pay full attention. And instead, what I'm going to ask you to do is, if you do keep this webinar on in the background while you're doing other things, just give me a tweet. I'm at Caelan Huntress on all the things, on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter, and all the places. If you hear something during this presentation that makes you go, aha, that makes a lot of sense, throw out a tweet or a LinkedIn post and tag me on it. So that's the only thing I ask, is that if you're not going to do this full screen and give full attention, feel free to surf elsewhere. And it's my responsibility to provide you with content that's good enough that it grabs your attention. And if it does, I just ask that you tweet about something that you learned in this presentation. So you know that this is the right place for you if you are an owner of a small business, if you freelance for other clients, or if you help other clients sell their stuff. Then you're going to learn a lot of great things in this masterclass. This is also the right place for you if you already have a website and an email list and offers to sell. If you don't have these three things, you're welcome to stay. I'm sure you're going to learn some valuable information, but the tactics and techniques that I'm going to be going over are designed for people who already have these three things in place. Regardless, if you want to double your revenue without doubling your work, so that you can focus on spreading your message and shining your light, and have your systems sell for you automatically, then I'm going to give you some tangible, practical tips that I think you're really going to like. Let's go over a quick agenda. First, we're going to talk about the three different types of competitors and what you can learn from each one. I'll tell you who CNN fears more than Fox News. I'll give you some strategies for partnering with your competitors, and I'll go through some case studies demonstrating how I've done that with my own business. I'll teach you how to do better copywriting by maintaining a swipe file. And if you don't know what a swipe file is, you're really going to like this. And finally, I'm going to go through some easy competition research techniques live on this masterclass with you using the competition research workbook. Now, this workbook, if you registered for this for the live webinar, then you should already have this in your email. And if you didn't, if you're watching this on the replay, then there will be a link somewhere nearby. I'm going to go ahead and drop a link to this into chat so that you can see, so that you can go ahead and have this open later. Okay. Now, I do want to make a note about vocabulary. Because I use this word platform really frequently. And a platform, to me, is a collection of ideas and offerings delivered by an individual person. And you can hear the word platform used in a lot of different ways. And when I use it, I want you to know that this is what I mean. If you have something to say and something to sell, then you have a platform. People who have a platform, they typically face the same four problems. The first problem is you're in uncharted territory because nobody has ever run this business of yours except for you. Everything you do, you're figuring out as you go because there's no roadmap to run your particular practice. You've built up your business around your interests and your skills, and so you're constantly figuring it out as you go along. The second problem that entrepreneurs who have a platform face is that they're throwing spaghetti at the wall, trying to figure out what's gonna work. It's like that famous advertising quote. I know that 50% of my advertising is working, I just don't know which half. And so we're constantly trying new things to see if we can figure out what's gonna stick and actually get results. The third problem that entrepreneurs face is cash flow. the feast and famine cycle. Some months you are great and you pay all your bills, and some months you don't. And you have to scramble to figure out how you're going to make up the difference. Month after month, it's a constant threat. And this really adds to the fourth problem, which is imposter syndrome. You see your competitors all doing these great, amazing things. They're launching these incredible campaigns, and they look like they're rolling in the cash. And even when you don't feel confident, you have to go out there and sell yourself. And you still have to show up as if you're the expert, even when you don't feel like it. So these are the four problems that I see with platform-based businesses. And I'd like to know if you face these problems. If you're watching live, go ahead and drop some numbers into the chat box. You can type number 2 if it's number 2 that you're facing. You can type 3, 4 if those are the 4 that you face. If you're watching on the replay, there should be a comment box in YouTube or somewhere nearby. Leslie says 3 and 4. I find those go together. Vince says always suffer from 4. Be the tall poppy, Vince. That's the best advice I can give you, is that the taller your poppy, the more confidence you have. And because imposter syndrome doesn't go very high. It sticks close to the ground. But the taller that you rise up, the less it can drag you down. Teresa says number 3, you get the work and then you're delivering the work. Yeah, it's tough. How do you keep selling when you suddenly find yourself delivering? I have an answer to that, and I'll tell you that at the end of the presentation. So stick around to the end. So when you're lost in the forest, one of the best things that you can do is follow a trail. Your competition leaves a trail that goes to a common destination. And what I'm going to be sharing with you today are ways to find and follow the trails left by your competition. Being lost in the woods, I don't know if you've ever been lost in the woods, but I have a number of times. And it's kind of exciting because the whole world is open to you. Literally, the whole world. You can go in any direction. And if you strike out into a new direction that nobody else has ever gone before, there's a chance that you can find a new vista that's never been discovered. There's a chance for that. That does happen. And I've had that happen once. And it was an amazing vista overlooking the city of Portland. A friend of mine were lost in Forest Park for 5 hours. And it's the largest park in city limits in the world. And we couldn't get out. We couldn't find the city. And we found this amazing vista and we got to see the city. And so we knew it's that way. But it wasn't until we found a trail that we were sure we were ever going to get out. Once we had the trail, I'll never forget the look on his face. So he was ahead and he jumped up and down on the trail, and I couldn't see the trail because it was under this rise. But when I got there and I saw it, I realized there's a path. There's a way out. I can get there. And what I'm going to show you today is how to research your competition to find your path and find your way out. Now, sometimes when I share these techniques with people, they get really concerned about authenticity. They're worried that they're just going to be copying their competition and they'll be a carbon copy. They won't be themselves in the market because they're just replicating what they see the competition do. And that's not what we're going to do. We're going to follow the path to the same destination, but we're not going to be wearing the shoes of someone else while we do it. There's a distinction here, and I'm going to go through this distinction when we talk about the 3 different types of competitors. But first, I want you to think about 3 competitors that you have now. And this was advice somebody gave me early in my career, and it was super helpful. He said, select 3 competitors at different levels of their business. Somebody who's behind you, somebody who's at the same level as you, and somebody who's ahead of you. And watch their career progress. Watch them over time. See how they develop. And I picked 3 people, and I've watched them for 5 years. And I've learned a lot just by seeing how they handle their transitions and their pivots. I've gotten a lot of ideas just by watching what they do in their businesses. I'm not copying them. I'm learning from them. And that's what I'm going to teach you how to do today. But first, I'm going to share with you one of the ways I did it that didn't work. When I moved to Costa Rica in 2011, I launched a web design agency called Pura Vida Multimedia. Costa Rica has this national slogan called Pura Vida. And Pura Vida is like, it's like aloha. It means hello, it means goodbye. They mean how you doing. They use it for everything. And so since I was moving to Costa Rica and I launched my 5th website, was puravidamultimedia.com. I had made 3 websites for friends and then charged for my first one. And I thought, hey, I've got enough for a portfolio. And so I launched a web design agency with that. And I built the web design agency around my interests. I did a lot of different things. I did web design. I did content marketing. I did videography. I did treasure hunts. And I had this wide sandbox because it was all the things that I was selling. When I looked at my competition, I saw a lot of people niching down. And a lot of people were declaring that they'd had great results from specifying who they served and what they did. I wasn't doing that. With Pura Vida Multimedia, you look at that, like, what does that mean? Somebody who needs a website or needs content marketing or needs a video made, they don't look at that brand and think, oh, that's for me. And so I followed in the path of my competition. And I relaunched my web design agency as Wellness Website Design. And Wellness Website Design, it grew out of this realization that a lot of my best clients were naturopathic clinics. They had 6 or more practitioners. They did a lot of wellness related activities, and they trusted somebody who spoke their lingo. Healers and holistic practitioners, they're usually way up in the air, and tech terrifies them. And so coming to them and speaking their vocabulary, it gave me a lot of authority in working with them. And so I decided that I was going to niche down and make WordPress websites for healers. And immediately I felt stifled. I wasn't able to do the work that I wanted to do. I had stopped showing up in the public marketplace authentically. I felt like I was muzzling myself and muting myself. I was taking the advice of what worked for my competitors and ignoring what worked for me. And this was my first mistake. My second mistake was I niched down too far for the variety of work that I knew I could accomplish. But the real big mistake is that I wasn't following the right trail. When you're lost in the forest, you can find multiple trails. Just because you find a trail, it doesn't mean it's the right one. The reason I share this story with you is because I want you to be cautious in pursuing the trails that works for your competitors. It's good to know what they are. It helps you make a map, but it doesn't mean that you have to follow it. Learn from it, but be really conscious about which direction you decide to go. So we're going to take a look at some competitors, and I'm going to give you some examples and some case studies so that you can apply this to the work that you're going to do in the competition research workbook. But first we need to clarify that there are 3 different types of competitors. You have direct competitors, secondary competitors, and indirect competitors. And here's the difference. Direct competitors provide the same service or product that you do. They do the same thing, they sell the same stuff. Secondary competitors, they serve the same market and they solve the same problem, but they do it with a different service or product. Indirect competitors are really interesting because they serve the same market, but they fill a different need. And so they're talking to the same people that you talk to, but they solve different problems than the problems you solve. And I'll give you an example to clarify this. If we look at these as concentric circles and we take McDonald's as our example, McDonald's has a direct competitor in Burger King. They both sell hamburgers. They both help people fill their bellies, right? If you're hungry and you want a burger, you can choose between the direct competitors, Burger King or McDonald's. Or if you're hungry, you could go to Voodoo Donuts, which is a donut shop from my hometown of Portland. And they have this famous donut that has bacon and maple syrup on it. It's an amazing culinary masterpiece. It's disgusting and fantastic at the same time. And if you're hungry, sometimes you want a burger, but sometimes a maple bacon donut is just incredible. So McDonald's has a secondary competitor in Voodoo Donuts. Their indirect competitor is Weight Watchers. Weight Watchers sells boxes of food to people who are trying to lose weight on a diet. They have the same market, people that are hungry, but they fill a different need. Do you want to have something tasty and cheap? Or do you want to have something that'll make you lose weight? Either way, hungry people are the market, but the need that they fill is different. And so if we look at these in a matrix, your direct competitors serve the same market with the same service. Your secondary competitors serve the same market and they solve a different need. They solve a different problem. Your indirect market only, or your indirect competitors only share the same market. So there's things that you can learn from each of these, but you need to be distinctive between them. And I'll give you another example. The digital marketing agency that I run right now is Stellar Platforms. That's why you see its logo all over the place. And with this marketing agency, I focus on providing digital marketing services for authors, coaches, and speakers. That's my target market. I have a direct competitor with NGNG Enterprises. NGNG stands for No Guts, No Glory, and it's run by Amber Vilhauer, who's a fantastic website designer. I really like her work. She serves the same market that I do. She works with thought leaders, people who have something to say and something to sell, and they produce a lot of content. And she makes WordPress websites for them, like I do. And I could have looked at her with envy and jealousy, because in some ways, she's a lot better than I am. But instead, I reached out to her and I said, hey, do you want to chat? And we ended up having a fantastic conversation. I learned things from her that I could never have learned from anyone else. She had this pricing model that really surprised me. And I've been using it for years. She said, take it, run with it, because it works so well for me. I had always done half down and half on completion for project work. And she said, I always require payment in full up front. I said, don't you get any pushback from that? I was astounded. And she said, nobody has given me pushback, not once. I have great testimonials. People trust my work. And by getting all the money up front, I never have to chase anybody around for invoices. I've been using that model for 3 years. And it was only because I was brave enough to go to my direct competitor and ask her for advice and provide some of my advice. And she was really glad to have somebody to geek out with on the same level. So reaching out to your direct competitors can work for you really well. Remember, we're sharing with competition. There's usually enough work out there for everybody. And if you go into a direct competitor relationship with an air of generosity, you'll usually get out a lot more than you put in. I have a secondary competitor with Brighton West Video. He makes videos for coaches. So we share a market, but we do it with a different service. I make websites and deliver content, and he helps them craft a video plan. He helps them get their video set up. He helps them work on how to get their audio to stream into Facebook. All those geeky things that you need to do to get your videos going. Coaches need those things because they produce a lot of face-to-face video content, and he helps them do that. And so we share a market, and we know a lot about this same market of coaches. And every time I have a conversation with Brighton, we always come up with some really great insights to share with each other. One of my indirect competitors is Your Other Half Solutions. And they do operations management. And they work with a lot of authors and speakers. Because authors and speakers, they're usually great on stage and not so great at the details. And so what Alice Chin at Your Other Half Solutions does is she helps them keep everything organized. She keeps them on track. She runs the meetings. And we've shared clients before because I provide one set of services and she provides another set, and we find ourselves on the same team. And so keeping a good relationship with an indirect competitor can lead to a lot of referrals. So those are some examples of my direct, secondary, and indirect competitors. And I'd like you to think about who your direct, secondary, and indirect competitors are. You don't need to write them down right now, because we're going to do that in just a little bit with the competition research workbook. But first, I want to tell you who CNN fears more than Fox News. Jonathan Klein, he's the ex-president of CNN, and he said he fears the 1 billion users on Facebook a lot more than the 2 million users on Fox News. Think about that. He's got a direct competitor of Fox News. They provide the same service, filling the same need to the same market. There's this indirect competitor over on Facebook with a much larger user base. It's the same market, but a different product. Where do people go to get their news? 2 million of them are going to Fox News, but that's a slice of the market share that go to Facebook. And they're not just using Facebook to get news. It fills a different need. They go there to share photos, to keep in touch with their family, to get dopamine hits. But if that's the place where they end up getting their news, they're not going to watch CNN. That's why CNN fears Facebook more than Fox News. So when you look at indirect competition, think about what your indirect competitors are doing to their market, how they're responding to their market, because it might give you insight on how relevant your product and service is to the same market that you share. All right, so now I want to talk to you about swipe files. Swipe files are the secret to my success. The reason why I am a good copywriter is because for a decade now, anytime I find copy that is really good, I save it in a swipe file. Yeah, Teresa loves them too. I agree with you. They are fantastic. And if you've never made a swipe file before, your competition research workbook is going to become a swipe file for you. And I'll show how later. But if basically it's just a place where you save the best of the best content that you found out in the wild. And when you are producing something similar, you have a place to go look for the best of the best content. So I keep swipe files for webinar registration emails, for email onboarding sequences, for sales pages. I've got swipe files for a lot of the different things that I produce, so that when I'm ready to start creating something, I can immediately start by looking at great copy. And I don't copy and paste in order to make their work my own, but I might rewrite some headlines. I might borrow their structure. I use these to get ahead. And I'm going to share with you how to do that in the competition research workbook. And so if you're watching live, go ahead and go to the chat and get this Google Doc. And I'm going to walk you through how to use it. All right. Now, when you're in this Google Doc, you can't edit this because it belongs to me. What you need to do is go to File and make a copy. When you make a copy, you can edit this. What I recommend you do is you double click on the caps right here. This is something you'll see in a lot of my workbooks. Things that are in caps, you double click and replace. And I'm just going to backspace all the way through and put my name right here, Caelan's Competition Research Workbook, and click OK. And you'll save this to your drive. And this version of it, you can edit, okay? And just to keep things clear, double click on the all caps and put your name in here, right? And now I'm going to walk you through step by step, section by section, how to use this to research your competition, okay? Now, the first thing we have is a table of contents. And you can use these links to navigate down below, but there's also this outline tab over on the left. If it's not open, you're going to hover over this icon on the left where it says show document outline. and you pop that open, and it'll allow you to navigate through the different headings, okay? And this is handy because if you want to go and see something, you can just click on the headings to go to it, all right? So starting up at the top, we've got a place to list your direct competitors, secondary competitors, and indirect competitors. And I've listed the market, need, and service here so that you can remember which is which. What I want you to do is I want you to highlight the bullets. And I'm going to say NG Enterprises is one. And if you want, you can just typing and talking at the same time. Makes my brain break. Never had that happen before. So you can list them right now if you know them off the top of your head, or you can paste their URLs. I find pasting URLs here to be really handy because if I have a list of direct competitors, I can open all these URLs in new tabs and go and do some research on them in bulk. So that's a handy tip, is you can either do the names or the URLs. If you want more competitors to research, then go to this link for domain analysis on Moz, and you can paste your URL and go to top search competitors. And they'll tell you, hey, based on the keywords that your website ranks for and their website ranks for, these are the relevant websites that look like yours. And you'll find some competitors that way. And then you can take those URLs and paste them in the same box. And you'll find more people to list. Really what you want to do is you want 5 to 10 people in each of these lists. If you can get 5 to 10 people in each of these lists, then you're going to have some really good foundation for doing this research. You're not going to be able to do this during this masterclass. Unless you're watching this live, you can feel free to hit pause, or I'm sorry, if you're watching this on the replay, you can hit pause, do some of this, and then keep going. That's something that I do in some of the tutorials and workshops that I sell, is offer you the chance to hit pause, do the work, and then unpause when you're ready to move to the next step. So this section for hero websites is people who you know you like. People who have great websites or great brands. They're people you admire. I'm a big believer that you should be advocates for your heroes. Because if you follow them on social media, if you subscribe to their newsletters and you reply to them, think about how you feel when somebody replies to your newsletter. Isn't it gratifying? Doesn't it puff you up? Think about how you feel when somebody comments on a lonely LinkedIn post that you made or retweets you. It makes you feel good. It gives you a positive association with the person who did it. You can harvest those positive associations by interacting with your heroes, by interacting with your competitors. If you follow these people on social media, subscribe to their newsletters, and you start replying to them, you are going to make friends. This is the easiest way I know to make friends online. Now, while you're following them on social media, while you're reading their newsletters, make note of how they call out their audience. Anytime you note them describing your shared market with a specific phrase, paste it here in your swipe file so that when you are going to talk to your audience, you can see ways that they've described your audience. That sales pages are really good for this. Usually in sales pages, people will list bullets of challenges that people face or qualifying characteristics of people in their market. Those are really great places to harvest this kind of language. If they use headlines that you like, paste them here. Again, what you got to do is you got to highlight both bullets and then paste a headline here, paste a headline here. And by collecting these over time, you're going to have really good content here you can swipe from. If you like their subject lines, paste them here. Now, keyword research, I find this to be a rabbit hole. SEO is just, it's total rabbit hole time. So I caution you against spending too much time here unless you really want to spend some time in SEO or you really do have an extra hour or two to kill. But if you go to SEMrush and you paste a competitor's URL, you can see what their top organic keywords are. These are the things that they're producing content for, that they're ranking for, especially with direct competitors. This is really valuable intelligence. You can highlight these bullets, paste a list, of what they're talking about. And it gives you a cheat sheet for the things that you can talk about to your same audience. This page for value ladders, I like doing this because I'm a sales funnel geek. I like to see what lead magnets people are offering. I like to list out the low priced and the high priced offers because it gives me a pulse of what the market is currently being marketed. If they're getting a lot of checklists for lead magnets, then I know that either checklists are effective or checklists are overdone. If they're getting offered a lot of $17 products, then that might make me hesitate from offering a $97 product as my lowest price point. This is the kind of intelligence that you need to make good strategic decisions. If you really want to go deep, you can buy something from a competitor and make a list of everything that happens. I have this whole onboarding audit workbook, which, if you subscribe to my newsletter, you'll eventually see it because I'm promoting these workbooks pretty heavily over the next few months, where you can copy and paste every stage of the onboarding sequence. And you can do just a simple checkout flow here to see what your competition's doing. All right, so this is fun. Answer the Public is a great way to find out what people are actually asking relating to your topic. You might think that they want one thing, but what they type into Google is actually different. So let's say I'm McDonald's and I'm looking at my indirect competitor. I see that there's some people with Weight Watchers. And I want to know how to get those people to come and buy my burgers. How am I going to do that? I'm going to get them on a hamburger diet, right? Because what I want to know is if people are searching for, oh, look at this pop-up. This is a really good call to action. Oh, if I had enough time, I would have copied and pasted it into my competition research workbook. What this does is it lets me take a look at the data, and they visualize the data for you to see what people are asking. Are hamburger good for a diet? This is the way they phrase it when they type it into Google. And so this is the way I would list my H2 heading in my blog post, is this, word for word. Why eating hamburger is good for you. Maybe I should do a blog post on that. What is a hamburger diet? Can eating hamburger meat? I have no idea what that means. And when I go down here, this gives me more of the language. Hamburger diet to lose weight. There's a keyword set. I might not have phrased it that way, but using Answer the Public, I can get the specific phrasing that my audience is using when they are searching for it. Hey, hamburger diet for dogs. That's industry. Hamburger rice diet for dogs. If I'm McDonald's and I'm doing hamburgers and I want to sell more hamburgers and I look over at my indirect competitor, Weight Watchers, by doing this research, I may have opened up a new market. Maybe I can sell hamburgers for dogs. Maybe I can do hamburgers. Oh, look at this, a hamburger diet for diabetics. Maybe I should offer a diabetic-friendly hamburger. This kind of research can give you strategic intelligence that you can use to make better decisions. I had a friend of mine ask once, we were going over his Google Analytics together, and he said, and he runs a membership website, and he's got all sorts of funnels in place. And so we were geeking out about all sorts of things. And we went into Google Analytics, and I helped him set up some basic goals so that he could measure abandoned cart rates and things like that. And he said, and so I made him a marketing metrics dashboard. It's another template I have. And so I just replicated it out of Google Sheets. And I said, here, let's put in the metrics you need to measure. And he said, I'll come in and I'll look at this every month, but what am I going to do with this intelligence? Like, what's the action that I do next? And I told him that there's no specific action that you do next, but what strategic intelligence does is it helps you make better decisions. That's what this research does. It helps you make more strategic decisions that are in line with your market. I mean, eating a hamburger with braces. Who at McDonald's would have thought about this? But by doing this research, they're finding maybe my market really wants to know how to eat a hamburger with braces. Maybe we make toothpicks. Maybe we do something to answer this market need. That's what this website is for. So I find Answer the Public really fun. It's a good thing to do late in the day when your brain's a little fried and you know you're not going to be that productive. Come and do something like this. It's interesting research. It'll give you a little boost and keep you going. And when you're in a mindset where you can't really do productive things, but you can do something that's worthwhile, this is a really good thing to do. Likewise, go into Quora, go into Reddit, searching for the topics, especially, follow this after Answer the Public. Take one of these topics, copy it, and paste it into Quora, paste it into Reddit, see what people are talking about. And if you can find specific problems that they're looking to solve, paste those here. For Facebook groups, I find it's really handy to keep a list of Facebook groups where my target market hangs out. And I keep a list of these as URLs. And when I have something to say, or when I have a question to ask, I'll just go on a lot of these groups and I'll go and start conversations. While I'm in there, I'll notice how they're talking about their problems. How your market talks about your problems is different than the way you talk about your problems, because you are an expert. You use fancy vocabulary. You have all these big words that shoves your market away. When you use the language of expertise, you're keeping your target market from hearing what you're saying. And so what I want you to do is go to Amazon and read the 3-star reviews. If you're on my newsletter list, you might have seen my piece on this earlier, where you go to Amazon, you type in your topic. I want to know who's talking about digital marketing. And I'm going to find some books. And I'm going to hover over the stars, and I'm going to open in a new tab. 3-star. No 3 stars. You don't have enough reviews. 3-star. 3-star. The reason why 3 stars are so useful is because a 5-star review is going to say everything that they liked. A 1-star review is just going to bash it. With a 3-star review, somebody's going to say what they wanted out of this book. They're going to describe what it didn't cover. Ooh, somewhat of a hard read. So if I'm promoting a book, I can make one of the bullet points, this is an easy read. Somebody like this is going to be really interested. Let's see, written practically, they like that. When I look over here at another set of reviews, not what you expected, not a terrible book. That's not really helpful. No 3-star reviews. I had a lot more of these earlier. Basic theory is good. Starting point, I like that phrase. Bothered me was there was a lot of justification for the theories. It was intellectually dishonest or too far-fetched. So maybe somebody in this market is looking for intellectual honesty, more than just theories. Step-by-step guides with actual practical tips. You know, this is where you can find out what are people really wanting out of this work, and then copy and paste those phrases here. So when you go through this workbook and you fill in all of the different sections, you're going to give yourself a list of things that you can do. You can write 52 subject lines, right? This is something you can do in my content calendar workshop, where we write 52 subject lines and 20 blog post headlines, and we plan out 12 months of content in 2 hours. Teaching one of those in a couple of weeks. It's going to be super fun. I'm going to reach out to direct competitors and schedule phone calls. I'm going to offer free webinars to 5 indirect competitors, right? You can just brainstorm things here that you can do. And this is not your task manager. Writing it here doesn't commit you. This is just a brainstorming list. If you see something in here that's really good and you want to continue, then you can migrate it to your task manager. But while it's here, it's not going to lock you in. So the real purpose of this document is to give you material to work with so that you have a swipe file where you can go to harvest good content when you're in a place where you need it. The next time you're stumped on what you're going to send to your newsletter, come here. The next time you're about to jump on a phone call and you don't know how to phrase your work in the language of your customer, come here. Collect everything that you need in a swipe file, and then you know where to go to make things happen. All right, so now I want to share with you some more case studies on how I've used competition research to elevate people's platforms. I look at a platform as having one of 4 levels, and they go through this progression. They might make it all the way to the top. A few of them do, but they always start with a soapbox. As long as you have something to say and you can get a few people to listen to you, you've got a platform. But it's not until you have something to sell that it becomes a commercial enterprise. This second level of a platform, this is the showroom. This is where your language and your messaging is much more focused on, these are the things that we have on offer, and this is how you can buy from us. But a showroom, it has a ceiling. And the breakout for a lot of people is when they move to the stage, where they can get in front of 1,000 people at a time. And they have systems that sell their offers automatically so that they can focus their time on spreading their message and shining their light. Eventually, some people progress from the stage to the stadium. And the stadium is where you can reach tens of thousands of people at a time. You focus much more on selling your ideas, and you sell by the impact you make on people. That's different than the stage where you can talk to 1,000 people at a time. You sell products and you sell by the outcome. The second level of platform, I work with a lot of people at this level, at the showroom level, where you can fit only about 150 people into your network at a time. This is where you sell services and you bid by the project. People on a soapbox, you can only get around 15 people to listen to you at a time because you're selling your time. You sell by the hour. You sell tasks. And so these are the 4 progressive levels of a platform, but there's also a regressive level in the sewer where people don't want to listen to what you have to say. And there are some online trolls who have a platform, but people actively don't want to listen to them. And I'm sure you've seen some people in the sewer, but I'm confident we don't have any people like that on this masterclass right now. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to self-identify which level you're at and type a number in the chat box. If you're watching this live, if you're watching this on a replay, leave a comment with the level of platform that you have now. And if you feel confident, also share with me what level of platform you want to get to. So you might be at a 2 and you want to get to a 4. Or you might be at a 1 and you just want to get to a 2 so that you can make some money. You know, there's no shame in any of these. I'm trying to get to the chat, but Zoom has this weird thing with the mouse. Here we go. Vince is between 2 and 3, would love to get to 4. Definitely. I think you'd be very at home on 4. Teresa's now at 2 and wants to get to 4. And Leslie's at the showroom and she wants at least the stage. You deserve the stage. And I have some really practical methods that you can get to the stage. Okay. So the way that I help people elevate their platform is through focusing on their cornerstones. Every platform has 4 cornerstones. We've already gone over 2 of them. There's what you say and what you sell. And we could call these the external cornerstones. These are the ones that people see when they look at you. But you also have 2 cornerstones at the back of your platform. And these are just as important to your success. These are your strategy and your systems. We could call these cornerstones on the left your visionary cornerstones, and your cornerstones on the right, your practical cornerstones. And if one of your cornerstones is weak, your platform will be lopsided. And you're always going to be leaning towards that cornerstone that's weakest. It's always going to be demanding your attention. You'll always have to put out fires over in that direction. And so what I do is I help people elevate each of their cornerstones, because that's what elevates your platform. That takes you through the 4 levels of platforms. So I'll give you 4 examples of how competitive research has helped me to elevate each one of these cornerstones. And I'll start with strategy. I was working with Lisa Garr, the host of The Aware Show. She was the host of a nationally syndicated radio show for 15 years. And it was on KPFK in Los Angeles. And it was super popular. She had a lot of goodwill built up in her niche. She interviewed book authors in the fields of neuroscience, consciousness, and spirituality. And that was her niche. And so anytime you published a book in those fields, you came onto Lisa's show sometime and she talked all about your book. But she wanted to get a network television show. She wanted to do video. And she had a great voice. She'd been on radio for 15 years, and she wanted a video show, a video show. And so we looked at what she had as assets, and we looked at where she wanted to go, and we worked out a strategy. This was back in 2014, before summits were a really big thing. We were part of the early summit movement, and we put together video telesummits where she interviewed 10 authors around a topic. And our qualifications for these summits was that they had to have a book, they had to have a free gift, and they had to have an offer that had an affiliate program. So every interview ended with Lisa offering the URL to her hop link. If you want to find out more about Joe Dispenza's program, then go to this link and you can find out more. You can watch the interview replay and get Joe's offer. And we did 6 of these telesummits from 2014 to 2016, and we generated $250,000 in revenue in each one. They were hugely successful. And most importantly, it got Lisa the visibility she wanted. She got a network program on Gaia TV. And for a number of years now, she's been interviewing thought leaders in her field on a video television program, which is just what she wanted all along. And it was elevating her strategy that allowed us to do that. I love systems. It's kind of one of my favorite cornerstones. It's why I pair so well with thought leaders, with people who are way up in the clouds. I can make practical adjustments to their platform so that systems run their business. And I had a client tell me, I want to do a webinar. And I said, great, let's pull out the templates and we'll go ahead and set up a webinar, a whole system. And so we had emails and we had sales pages. And I looked at his competition and who else was doing webinars. I went to my swipe file and I noticed something, that in the welcome email, some people did something really clever. They had, at this point in the funnel, after somebody's watched the webinar, after they've gone through the sales page, after they hit the buy button, in the welcome email, they said, why don't you join our affiliate program? Share the webinar registration page with your network, and if they go through this funnel and make a purchase, then you get a cut. And so we baked in some viral sharing in this webinar, so that now James Twyman doesn't have to be promoting his webinar all the time. The people who have seen his webinar are promoting it to other people in their network. And it was all through competition research that we found this simple little tweak that brings him more newsletter subscribers and more sales. I know that messaging is really important to a lot of the clients I work with, because how they show up and how they spread their message is their brand. And I had a client who really loved the sales page that I made for him. He had a whole bunch of audio meditations, and he wanted to sell them in both individually and in packages. And I love geeking out about this sort of stuff. And so I made a sales page that had multiple price points. You could buy one of these or you could buy all 3. And he said, I don't want to go up on stage and ask people to go buy my product. He's been, Lee Holden is a Qigong teacher out of Santa Cruz, and he's often invited to big conferences to talk about energy healing and Qigong. And he said, I don't want to just say, hey, now buy my stuff. How do I promote this thing? And so I did some research into his competition, and I found a really good strategy. And I said, let's do a 5-day free mini course. So that when you're on stage, what you say is, hey, if you liked this Qigong exercise that we all just did here together, you can go to this URL and get a free 5-day Qigong course. Enter your email, and we'll send you 5 days worth of videos. The videos are 7 minutes long, and they were assets he already had. I just organized them into a free 5-day email course. And then at the end of the course, we pitched the meditations, so that the people who were exposed to his offers had already gotten value from him. And all he has to say when he's on stage is, come take my free course. And it's his systems that sell for him. And now we'll talk about sales. Selling is often an emotional block for a lot of people. Now, I don't have this block because before I got into digital media, I spent 10 years as a professional salesman. And I really studied the art and the craft of selling. So a lot of times when I'm working with people on their digital marketing, I'm also coaching them on how to sell. And a lot of people think selling online is really complicated, but it doesn't have to be. I work with a lot of speakers, and I was working with a Hall of Fame speaker, Mike Rayburn, and we had produced this online course, the 16-week What If Challenge together, based on his signature speech, his What If keynote. And it wasn't selling online. And so we went back to basics and said, who's really going to buy this? Do we want to sell it to people individually on the internet, or do we want to sell it in bulk to the people who buy your keynotes? And I looked at his competition and I said, how are they selling their programs? And I interviewed a lot of his competition because a lot of them were my clients. And the people who were doing well with training and speaking as multiple revenue streams, I found what they did is they made the offer to their contact during the standing ovation. Mike is a fantastic speaker. He always gets his crowd really riled up, and his message is so inspirational. After his keynote, everybody's fired up, but he's seen it happen so many times that the motivation doesn't last. And so at that point, he goes to his contact backstage and he gives them this brochure that we designed together. And he says, hey, if you want to keep this enthusiasm going, I've got a program that'll keep them in this mood for 16 weeks. And so we set up a way for him to sell that used his greatest asset, his performance ability. We leveraged that so that when he makes a pitch, a selling request to his customer, he does it when they are most primed. They just saw the keynote too. Everybody there's so much energy in them. There's a thing happening. And then Mike hands over a brochure that he keeps in his gig bag and says, here's something else you can do. It's strategic selling. And I learned how to do this by looking at his competition. And so those are ways that you can use the cornerstones to elevate. When you're looking at your competition, ask yourself, what are they saying? What are they selling? What's their strategy? What are the systems they have in place? And remember, this doesn't mean you have to do it. It does allow you to be inspired by it. Okay, so I'm going to go over the agenda real quick to review everything we've talked about today. We talked about the 3 types of competitors. I shared with you who CNN fears more than Fox News. We talked about how to partner with your competitors, better copywriting with a swipe file, and we went through the competition research workbook. And so now, since you've stayed all the way through this presentation, I do want to let you know about my new program that's launching in 2 weeks. It's called Pipeline Time, and it's a 4-week live training program that I'm super excited about. I've run it through beta with a couple of individuals, and starting in March, I'm going to run a 4-week group program. And I'm offering this at a really low price to get some people in and to get some testimonials. This beta group is going to help me make sure that this is what I really want to sell over the next few years. I find that a lot of people who have to sell themselves, they're daunted by the technology. But it doesn't really take a whole bunch of technology to manage a simple sales pipeline. If you can clarify all the stages of your pipeline and make a checklist for what it takes to move somebody from one stage to the next, then you can schedule 2 hours of pipeline time every week and just work your way through the checklist. It makes selling simple. Now, I'm probably going to sell this 4-week training program for $1,000 or $2,000, but starting on March 10th in New Zealand, which is March 9th for my US listeners, I'm going to run the first beta cohort for $497. And so if you're interested in joining that program, you can go to pipelinetime.com and you can join the beta. This is the only time it's going to be offered at this low of a price. And because when I relaunch it in May, it's going to be at least $1,000. So if you'd like to set up your pipeline, we're going to be using workbooks similar to the competition research workbook. And I'm very excited about this new program. Now, I do want to offer one extra bonus for everybody who stayed this long in the presentation, and that's a 45-minute platform assessment. This is a one-on-one call between you and I. You do have to apply. If you go to caelanhuntress.com/call, you'll see all the details on there. And I am going to ask you to fill out a form that takes about 10 to 15 minutes so that I can come to the conversation prepared with ideas. What I want to do is I want to figure out how can we minimize the time you spend marketing so that you can maximize the revenue you earn from your offers. That's what we're going to talk about during this 45-minute call. It's not a sales call. It's a call about you. Now, at the end of this call, if I think you might be a match for my 3-month coaching program, then I'll invite you to another call where we can discuss what that would look like. I've got a 3-month coaching program where I work with entrepreneurs on elevating their platform and amplifying their digital marketing. And I do it by focusing on the cornerstones. We spend a couple of weeks on each cornerstone, and we do it using workbooks. Just like the competition research workbook that you used earlier, I'm going to give you 12 different workbooks. And every week, or every 2 weeks, because it's a 3-month program, you're going to have 2 more workbooks to use. We're going to focus on what you sell, lay out your value ladder, your sales funnel, and write compelling calls to action. We'll focus on what you say, lay out your content strategy. I'll give you methods beyond the swipe file on how to produce content quickly and produce content that sells with promotional copy. We'll do an audit of your systems, a full onboarding audit to see what's happening to people after they subscribe and buy from you. We'll lay out a content calendar and revise your email onboarding sequence. And then we'll take a close look at your strategy. We'll define your customer avatar, set goals, and plan launches. Now, this 3-month program starts with a one-to-one platform assessment. So before you can even apply to be in my 3-month coaching program, we need to do this one-to-one platform assessment to see if we're a match, to see if you're a match for me and I'm a match for you. The types of people that I work really well with are sick of digital marketing, but they know that if they spent some time on it, one time, they could set it and forget it. I work with people who want the evergreen marketing in place so that they don't have to tend to it all the time. I work with people who know that if they're getting results that they don't like, they need to change the way they think about their systems, their platform, and their business. I've been able to achieve some really great results with my clients, and that's one of the reasons I'm selective. I don't work with anybody who applies to work with me. I work with people where I can see my services and my strategy could really amplify where they are and where they're going. And so it sounds like you would be a fit for one-to-one coaching. If you have 2 hours to commit every week, to marketing yourself for 3 months, if you already have a website and you already have emails, then you're the type of person that I could work really well with. If you don't have your email infrastructure set up yet, if you don't have a website yet, if you don't know what you're selling, then I'll just be honest, this 3-month coaching program is not going to help you. This is for people who want to get from the showroom to the stage. And so if you're at the showroom and you want to have your systems sell for you so you can focus more time on spreading your message, then I invite you to join me for a free 45-minute platform assessment. So for those of you who showed up live, I really appreciate your time. Those of you watching this on the replay, there are links around here for all the things that I've talked about. And I really appreciate the time that we spent together today. Thanks so much.